You're listening to the Chronicles of Aguna, the Arsenal podcast.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.
Hello and welcome back to the channel on this fine Tuesday morning. We promised you that this season we'd be bringing you more content relating to the wider world of football. And we're kicking that off today with some talk about Romelu Lukaku. Now, I've woken up this morning, I've had my coffee, I've been rooting through all the big stories, all the major news. And this was the story and headline that really stuck out to me. So this is the one we're going to discuss on today's bit of bonus content. If you haven't had your morning coffee yet, grab it now, sit back, relax. We're going to do around about 15 minutes on this big story, which is a huge story in terms of the world of football, but it's one that could also have a knock-on effect on Arsenal's transfer plans this summer. And that's why I thought it was quite important that we touched on it and that we picked this particular one. Now, Chelsea are in the market for a striker. We all know that. Chelsea have been linked with Erling Haaland. They've been linked with Lautaro Martinez, just like us. But it seems like Chelsea are interested in bringing back Romelu Lukaku to the club. Now, according to reports from Italy, from Sky, Chelsea have had an offer for Romelu Lukaku worth £85 million, not euros, pounds, rejected by the Nerazzurri. And Chelsea's proposal would have also seen Marcos Alonso move to Inter as part of that deal. Now, the offer came after the Premier League club were warned it would take in excess of 100 million euros, so around about 85 million pounds, to tempt the champions of Italy, of course, to sell Lukaku. And it seems like Chelsea are dead serious about their interest in the Belgian striker. Now, my initial reaction to this is Chelsea are in the market for a top striker. And right now in world football, I'm not sure there are many better than Romelu Lukaku. Now, I've criticised him in the past. I've been on podcasts in the past and I've talked about Romelu Lukaku, and it was particularly during his time with Manchester United. And I repeatedly said that I didn't think he was necessarily sophisticated enough as a striker in terms of his movement, in terms of his link-up play, in terms of his overall game to lead the line for one of Europe's elite clubs. I always felt like with Romelu Lukaku, he was still a little bit raw. And a lot of the opportunities he was creating and the runs he was making and the spaces he was getting into were largely due to his physical attributes. And his physical attributes are incredible. He's incredibly strong. He's extremely powerful, and that makes him an absolute nightmare for defenders to defend against. But for me, there was always something missing from Romelu Lukaku's game. Just that final bit that takes you from being a good striker to an elite striker. But I think since moving to Serie A and joining Inter, he's really taken his game up to another level. Now, a lot of the time, people will sit there and they will say, the Italian league is not as good and the Italian league is this and it's a bit slower and it's a bit less physical, and that probably suits Lukaku more and probably allows his kind of physical attributes to be even more sort of decisive in terms of going up in duels against defenders. But I tell you one thing, the standard of defending in Italy, as we all saw in the Euros, has not dropped all that much. It's still one of Europe's elite leagues, whether people want to believe it or not. Is it marketed as well as the Premier League? No. Is it easily accessible in England? Well, no, it's behind the paywall on Premier Sports. And that's why a lot of people, in my opinion, over the last few years here in the UK have kind of turned off from Italian football. But the standard is still high. The level is still very good. And Romelu Lukaku was incredible last season for Inter under Antonio Conte. The thing is with this one is that Romelu Lukaku is happy there. There's no doubt about that. He was extremely happy working under Antonio Conte. The pair got on like a house on fire. Antonio Conte's been credited with really getting more out of Romelu Lukaku than anybody's been able to in the past. He's helped him, I think, tactically improve in terms of the spaces that he occupies. He's put him into a system that is geared to get the best out of him. And it's just a marriage made in heaven. Now, of course, Antonio Conte has now left Inter, and there were many question marks around what that would mean for Romelu Lukaku. But the Belgian, to be fair to him, has repeatedly said, even post Antonio Conte, that he is happy at Inter. He's happy in Milan. He is settled. And he's spoken very highly, actually, of the new manager, Simone Inzaghi, who does play and has played historically a very similar system to the one that Antonio Conte played at Inter. So I don't think Romelu Lukaku will be looking at the situation at Inter and saying, well, we've lost Antonio Conte. I really need to get out of here. So I don't think that the player would necessarily be sort of pushing for this move. But of course, we've talked a lot about Inter, haven't we, during this transfer window when talking about a supposed Arsenal target, Lautaro Martinez, and the fact that Inter are in a place where they could probably do with bringing in some funds this summer. Part of the reason Conte left the club was because he was not given guarantees that he'd be able to strengthen the squad further, and he was told that he'd have to sell one or two of his key players. He didn't want to stand for that, and fair enough, that's his prerogative. But many of us thought that after Achraf Hakimi had left the club in a big money move where he joined PSG, that Inter would be in a place now where they could fend off interest, or at least be very, very demanding in terms of the asking prices that they set for some of their key players. But that has not deterred Chelsea, who are knocking on the door. Now, as I say, this bid that has supposedly gone in is reportedly worth £85 million, or around about €100 million. And it also included Marcos Alonso, a left wing back who I think would probably thrive in Italy and in that system going the other way. So that will probably appeal to Inter. You know, Marcos Alonso is a very decent player, in my opinion, very underrated here in the UK. All right, defensively, he's not the best, but he does impact games in the final third. He's got a brilliant left foot. I think his movement in an attacking sense is really good as well. And that would obviously appeal. But more importantly for Inter, it's about the money. And even still, even after kind of riding that wave of financial uncertainty and moving Achraf Hakimi on to try and kind of ease that problem, they are still in a place, undoubtedly, where they could really do with bringing in major funds, but also lowering their wage bill. Now, how has Romelu Lukaku fared during his time at Inter? Well, of course, as I say, he's been brilliant. He's managed 64 goals and 16 assists in 95 appearances. That is 80 direct goal contributions in 95 appearances for the Nerazzurri. It doesn't really get much better than that. But to be fair to Romelu Lukaku, goals have never been an issue for the Belgian. During his time at Manchester United, where he was heavily criticised, he managed 42 goals in 96 appearances. That's nearly 1 in 2. He managed 41 goals in 98 appearances for Anderlecht. And at Everton, he managed 87 goals in 166 appearances. So Romelu Lukaku has never had an issue putting the ball in the back of the net. It's never been his problem. Now, he does have a history with Chelsea, and this baffles me a little bit. Chelsea are one of those clubs that, because they've got an embarrassment of riches in terms of talent, and they've always had that ever since Roman Abramovich took over anyway. You know, we've seen lots of top quality young players, the likes of Mo Salah, Kevin De Bruyne, who got to points in their career where it just wasn't, they weren't getting the opportunities at Chelsea. They moved on and went on to be very good elsewhere. Romelu Lukaku is someone who had a bit of a strange time at Chelsea because in terms of appearances for the first team, he only made 15 and he was loaned out on a number of occasions. So he signed for Chelsea from Anderlecht in August 2011 for £13.5 million. He spent time at West Brom. He spent time at Everton, and then Everton eventually decided that they would sign him on a permanent deal. They paid £31.82 million for him. And 3 years later, he made the big move to Manchester United. £76 million. The Red Devils paid to take Lukaku up to Old Trafford. And as I say, he was very heavily criticised during that time, by me included, because I did think that for a Manchester United centre-forward, he needed a little bit more in terms of his overall game. He needed to link up better with people. He needed to bring others into the game. There was criticism and kind of talk of him being a bit of a flat track bully. And I think a lot of people felt that way during his time at Manchester United. But to be fair to him, since joining Inter, as I say, he's gone up another level. He's found a home. He's settled. Obviously, the Antonio Conte departure probably slightly changes things. And I could tell you now that if Antonio Conte was still in charge of Inter, there is no doubt in my mind that Romelu Lukaku would be staying put. However, with him gone, there is a chance that this player does move on. But what are the implications on him moving on for Arsenal? Because, yes, we're not directly involved in this. Arsenal are not the club making a bid for Romelu Lukaku. But, of course, as I said earlier on, Arsenal are rumoured to be heavily interested in Lautaro Martinez, Romelu Lukaku's strike partner. And I'll tell you one thing, Inter will not be selling both of those players this summer. That is for sure. Now, the difference here between the two is that Romelu Lukaku has a slightly longer contract. His contract at Inter currently expires in June 2024, whereas Lautaro Martinez is in a place where Inter are sweating a little bit about actually tying him down for a longer period of time. His deal expires in 2023. So if he plays another season at Inter and he still refuses to sign a new deal, he will be in that final year of contract. Inter are yet to meet Lautaro Martinez's wage demands. I believe that Arsenal could meet his wage demands if they were to break the bank and make this signing happen. But as I say, I don't expect Inter to be losing both of these players this in one summer. It would be so unfair on Simone Inzaghi to expect him to defend the Scudetto without his two strikers. I think that Inter, if they recruit right, if they cash in on one of those guys, they could still compete at the top of the league. And especially if they go and bring someone in, who can contribute. I'm not saying you're going to get another Romelu Lukaku for half the price, but there are players out there that with a big budget Inter could bring in and lure to the club. They're in the Champions League again. They're the current champions of Italy. Inter are on the rise, but for Arsenal, Chelsea are one of these clubs that get what they want. They normally do. And so in our position here, where we are interested supposedly in Lautaro Martinez, it feels like we've got to act now. And we've got to get that deal done now, sooner rather than later. Because if Inter make a breakthrough in negotiations over Romelu Lukaku, it's going to be incredibly difficult for Arsenal to be able to then persuade Inter to part ways with another one of their key strikers. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. But of course, Chelsea, as I say, not messing around. They have submitted a bid. It has been knocked back, mind you, worth £85 million. It also included Marcus Alonso going to the San Siro. So I expect Chelsea to return with an improved offer. But Arsenal need to act quickly if they want to prize Lautaro Martinez away. Because I'll tell you one thing, I'll be shocked, really shocked, if both of those players were to leave San Siro this summer. Don't forget that this podcast is brought to you by manscaped.com. Enter our discount code 90min20 to get 20% off of all your male grooming equipment. There's some brilliant stuff there. The Lawnmower 4.0 is a great piece of equipment, I must say. Please do check it out. As I say, use the discount code 90min20 and you'll receive 20% off as well as free worldwide shipping. Stand to save yourself a fair bit of money. So get that push in order. So, yeah, there we go. Just wanted to bring you guys up to speed on the Romelu Lukaku situation. Share my thoughts on Romelu Lukaku and the implications of a potential move to Chelsea on Arsenal in their pursuit of Lautaro Martinez. We promised you we were going to bring you more content, sort of bite-sized content in the mornings relating to stories, maybe not necessarily in the Arsenal world, and we're going to continue to do that. So please show some support, show some love, hit the like button if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and let me know in the comments what you made of it. Do you enjoy this kind of thing? Would you like to see more of it? The plan is to bring you more of it every morning, 10 a.m. We'll be bringing you some news from the wider world of football, but that will not be taken away from the Arsenal shows that we're going to be doing. We'll be back at lunchtime for our usual live podcast. And then this evening, I will be joined by Elliot from the Arsenal Vision podcast. It's one of my favorite Arsenal podcasts. It's fantastic. So Elliot will be joining me from across the pond to talk all things Arsenal. And we're going to have a little bit of a debate on a very special subject that we respectfully disagreed on Twitter. But yeah, looking forward to it. Catch you all very, very soon. Until then, take care. Ciao.
You're listening to the Chronicles of Aguna, the Arsenal podcast.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.